Well, good afternoon. It's my pleasure to welcome you to our 30th webinar in the Coffee With series hosted by the Greenleaf Center for Servant Leadership at Seton Hall University. I'm Reggie Lewis, Executive Director of the Center, and it's great to greet all of you who've logged on today from places around the United States to take part in our conversation with the Marie Gill, one of the most thoughtful voices on how to create communities where all can flourish. And in just a moment, I'll give a more formal introduction of today's guest, but first, a word about our webinar series and the center. The Coffee With series provides the center the chance to showcase the inspirational stories of servant leaders and the endless ways in which individuals and organizations can be transformed by the power of servant leadership, a philosophy in which the leader first seeks to serve. And I assure you, Marie will not disappoint. For nearly 60 years, the Greenleaf Center has worked to promote the awareness, understanding, and practice of servant leadership for a more just and caring society. In addition to the Coffee With series, other core programs include the annual Public Policy Lecture, which features thought leaders and issue experts from a range of sectors who apply a servant leader's perspective to current public policy challenges. The Greenleaf Scholars Program, which funds researchers whose work promotes the efficacy and impact of servant leadership. We also expose high school and college students to opportunities to develop lives of service through our Next Generation initiative. And through our outside engagements, we proudly work closely with organizational partners as they implement the practice of servant leadership throughout their workplace culture. Before introducing our guest, though, I'd be remiss in not acknowledging the generous sponsorship of today's webinar by Howard Behar, former president of Starbucks International and trustee emeritus of the Greenleaf Center. Thank you, Howard, for today's sponsorship, but thank you so much for all that you do for us here at the Greenleaf Center. And now the moment we've all been waiting for. Again, we're just thrilled to welcome our guest and friend, Marie Gill, founder, builder, and globally recognized voice in the movement for human flourishing at work. Her mission is to unlock agency, opportunity, and growth for every individual, especially those overlooked by traditional systems. Marie spent over 20 years in the coffee industry with foundational time spent with Starbucks Coffee, where she learned to model and support leadership behaviors from treasured mentors like Howard Behar. And after leaving Starbucks, she founded the Green Apron Alliance, a global Starbucks alumni program, growing the community from 200 to almost 20,000 people across 20 plus countries. Now, only Marie could do that, by the way. She also founded the Global Flourishing at Work Community of Practice under the Human Flourishing Program Network at Harvard University. And earlier this year, Marie co-founded Aetheon, a company committed to unlocking human potential using future-focused learning, cutting-edge science, and smart technology. The organization focuses on empowering people and teams to create opportunities via core skills and community in a fast-changing world. And boy, do we need a lot of that today. All right, let's kick things off. Marie, have you got your coffee over there?
I do. Yes, thank you.
Welcome. Great to see you always. We'll begin. By the way, to our friends in the audience, particularly those who are joining the webinar series for the first time, feel free to begin to load up the Q&A chat feature, so you'll have an opportunity to also raise questions with our friend before the program is over. But we'll start the formal interview thinking about the beginning. So the team here calls this section Genesis. So in the beginning, there was Aetheon, if you will. But Marie, what insights and experiences inspired the creation of Aetheon?
Yeah, well, first of all, thank you. Thank you for bringing your team to this important conversation, and thank you for sharing this time. I gosh, there's a lot of things that inspired this particular moment. I do think that the launch of Aetheon, and I share this with my team, is that this is kind of a summary of my life's work, if you will. It's all of these life experiences, all these things that I've been challenged with over time, and I feel like I have something that needs to help people. And so it really started with some research that we did a couple years ago in partnership with the Human Flourishing Program, and in a white paper that we published, where one of the things we were landing on is that over 3 billion people want what they call meaningful work, but only 300 million have it. So that's a huge disconnect. There's a lot of people out there in the world
Give that
today.
stat again, by the way.
Yeah, 3
Billion.
billion people,
Huh.
3 billion people want meaningful work, things
Hmm.
that mean something, that are inspiring for them, but only 300 million of us have
Oh,
it.
wow.
So, that's a huge disconnect right there. So what's driving that? And where I land and where I come from is that I believe every person deserves to flourish. We all deserve a chance at opportunity and gaining agency. I am absolutely convinced that so much of our world's challenges are coming from a place of fear, that as we individually don't have the skills, the insights, the know-how, the opportunity to move forward, we have unfortunately given ourselves away to a company, to a job title, to a set of standards that are belonging to someone else. And so I want to make sure we have the empowerment and the agency to take that back. And so we're very passionate about meeting those needs of individuals. And, we're looking at also helping teams that have, people work best together,
Yeah.
and understanding what we bring to the table and what we bring to the team is really important. And unfortunately, again, we're part of this outdated industrial age infrastructure that doesn't really look at us as individuals, doesn't look at us as human beings. And I think that we can change that. And that's what I'm doing, is trying to figure out how to bring equity, access, and opportunity to a whole bunch of different people through the use of skills.
Fantastic. Drilling down a little bit more in terms of more specific goals, if you will. Um, give the audience two key ones in terms of addressing what feels like, and you've already alluded to this rapidly evolving workplace where people are experiencing the layoffs, the downsizing or right sizing, the lots of fear and lots of anxiety. So in comes Atheon.
Yeah. Well, part of it is just this idea that there's a skills gap in some cases. So people are operating from a perspective of, I don't know what's happening with this emerging technology. Everyone around me is talking about AI, Gen AI, LLMs, prompt engineering. How do you work through all of that? And I think if you haven't been exposed to it, it's very frightening. But more importantly, if you don't have the foundational elements of what we would call core transferable skills, something that helps you navigate whatever comes your way, something that helps you shift from these challenges. If you can't open your arms and your mind and your heart to what is coming, it's really, everything is going to be frightening. Everything is going to be challenging. And so part of what we focus on is, how do we help people understand who they are? What is their secret sauce or their skill that they bring, and how do we help them think through how to move forward positively? So we do focus on what we call these core transferable skills, things that make us human, things that make us able to thrive. Learning how to be a plumber, learning how to be a lawyer, learning how to be a doctor, that comes later. We all need these basic skills to actually be able to weather these storms and be able to take on new things.
Love it. Core transferable skills. And just reminding us, Marie, as you've done so eloquently that we all have some type of secret sauce or talent to contribute and share. That's fantastic. Um, moving into our next category in terms of, we know what we have now, or at least we're beginning to pay more attention. That's one of the unintended consequences, if not benefits, of what the crisis moment creates. We all start becoming more conscious. But in thinking about a better way forward and how that might look, let's talk about that because you and others describe this exciting work. It's not a project. Um, it's really a movement, right?
Yeah.
But where's the movement going? What does it look like? And are there tangible benefits or outcomes we can expect more immediately? Because this sounds long term, right? So because we're changing mindsets. So weigh in however
Yeah.
you would, my friend.
Yeah, no, I think that's right. And I do use the word movement a lot. I do use the idea that this is not a fad or a temporary moment. This is a long-term perspective. In fact, our team embraces this idea that we're part of this infinite game. Simon Sinek has written about this book in his one of his books as well. But the idea around the infinite game is that it is very likely that this dream and this goal that we have to provide agency and empowerment to people will far exceed my time here on earth. And so we're building something that is way future focused, really forward. And so right now, it takes a lot of us to get this thing off the ground. We're talking about redefining work. We're talking about redefining how we show up. As I mentioned, we're operating today in this old industrial age perspective of where there were tasks that had to get done, and you needed X number of warm bodies in there to do those tasks. And the 10 widgets equals 10 people, and it just life is not that way, and work is not that way. So we're using this time to maybe reshift how we think about what is the future of work. And honestly, the future of work, based on all the research that we're seeing coming out of the Human Flourishing Program, seeing all of the work that we're doing on the ground with Aetheon, is that future of work is regenerative. It is going to be centered on human dignity, adaptability, and belonging. And the sooner we all start embracing the fact that humans are really important to that regenerative workplace, and Dr. Eileen McNeely, through the SHINE program at Harvard, also talks a lot about the regenerative workplace. But this is a place where we can actually imagine that every human is celebrated for who they are today and is empowered to unlock their own unique potential for tomorrow. And so if we embrace this idea of a regenerative workplace, we automatically create opportunities for everyone, that we celebrate diversity, we celebrate the great things that individually we all bring. One of the things we talk about at Aetheon is that when you come to Aetheon and want to join the community and be part of that, is we want to take a moment and just celebrate you for who you are here right now, not assume or presume that you need to change or that something needs to be different. You bring an incredible lifetime of skills, things that you've uniquely done, things that you've uniquely solved for. You bring a lot of experiences and things that you can add to the equation. And so we just want to take a moment and say, you're awesome. That's great. Here's what you could be considering to do. Here are things that you might not have thought about, and we want to make sure you get those chances to start exploring that.
Fantastic. A regenerative workplace where diversity is embraced, but we know we're not in that time, we're not in that climate. And just thinking in particular about the public sector and policymakers,
Mhm.
is there a portion or a part of this work that pulls you and others into, recommending specific policy shifts, aiming at greater accountability among our policymakers? Um, so
Yeah.
speak to that because a lot of us feel like depending on how you might classify yourself, that, you're sort of out of the game totally with respect to that. But the role of policymakers or potential policy shifts, what do you say to
Yeah, look, policymakers are human too.
that?
And, again, we are all about celebrating humanity and celebrating the things that make us really unique and special. One thing I think maybe to think about is, and this kind of plays into the power of building community and building connections with others. But in a recent conversation I had with Dr. Mike Pino, out of Florida, is, one of the things he talks about is that individuals have skills, but it's in the team function that collaboration really start to happen. And so individually, we all bring, my co-founder Gina will say that we all have these Lego blocks. We have this unique mix of Lego blocks, and depending on how those Lego blocks can come together, we can actually make and form something pretty awesome and pretty cool. If you think about social policy, and working with policymakers, et cetera, there is something powerful about the adoption of skills individually, but how do we apply them as a team or a collaborator in a community setting is really important. I bring what I bring, and I will add it to the soup that's being made when people come together. And so we do help. We like the idea of helping influence policy, but I think it's going to come to the first point is we have to be humans. We have to be recognizing and celebrating humanity first, and then this comes as part of that.
Absolutely. Um, Behaviors and current workplace culture, as you've already alluded to, um, outdated, uh, not the most productive of environments. So the question has to do with, um, in places where there are fewer incentives to prioritize the needs over profit, the needs of people over profit. Um, Speak to that. Here at the center, when we travel around the country working with organizations that are among the willing and those who are willing to at least attempt to do this stuff called servant leadership, we have to face the realistic response on the part of people who say, hey, what you're advocating, what you're pushing is countercultural. This is not a time in which we can afford to think about others when we're, afraid for our own spots. But what
Mhm.
do you say to all that chatter?
Yeah, it makes me very frustrated. But here's the thing, because I come from a work culture and I am focused on flourishing at work and helping companies, organizations unlock the skills that they have within their company. I have to go to market through the language and the approach that they expect. And so what businesses want to hear is what's the ROI on doing all of this? What's the return on this? We actually are looking at through Aetheon, we're looking at this through the lens of our goal, our mission is to have that CEO put their people on the balance sheet. Today, people are seen as an expense line item. We have to invest, we have to put things into them, and that they just cost us a lot of money. But what happens if you invest for a direct return? And so there is an ROI to flourishing. There's an ROI that comes from increasing productivity. And we actually want to talk about that in specifics. For every dollar spent on mental health, there's a
Mm,
$4 return. So
mm,
just right away, you change the trajectory on thinking about mental well-being. Um, and if you start to layer that into what is the time that is saved when someone doesn't have to leave work early to deal with something at home or a mental crisis of some sort or a physical crisis. I mean, we're humans. There's stuff that we show up with that we have no intention of, we can't get rid of it, and so we have to keep working through it. So how do we look at the investment of people and for the purpose of putting them on the balance sheet? If you talk to um, a manufacturer, they budget for the maintenance of the equipment. They go out and make sure it's well oiled, that it's got service and so on. And that piece of equipment shows up on the balance sheet. Well, why the heck are we not doing that with people? Why are we not thinking about people being on that balance sheet? And I guarantee you, if you start thinking about it in that way, you start to treat that asset differently. You start to treat that asset in a better way at work. And so that's what we're trying to figure out.
Absolutely. An ROI on flourishing indeed.
Mhm.
I'm going
Sure.
to invite members of my team, Gabby Cooper, our project manager, and our Greenleaf Scholar, Sandra Dawson, who are going to ask you the next category of questions. And they're eager to push me to the side here. So I'm yielding the floor, Marie.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you, Reggie. So our next category is navigating digital transformation. And so you touched on these core transferable skills earlier. So our question is, in this time of rapid technological advancement, what are these skills and strategies that lifelong learners can employ to remain current and competitive?
Yeah. I love this question, and it speaks to a lot of the work that we're doing at Aetheon, but also that's been informed from the Human Flourishing Program. Um, the we all walk around with about, I don't know, 500, 800 skills of any sort. And these skills are all the things that you can imagine. Some are what we would say domain specific, so things that you do to have to work your job, the very specific thing about your job. But most of those are core transferable skills. So, people who want to stay ahead in this trajectory of change and all the things that are happening, we're not asking them to go learn more. We're actually asking them to learn smarter. And so this actually is a great place for us to build those technical skills, digital skills, but double down on higher cognitive and human skills like problem solving, creativity, and resilience. These things are going to help them create the strategy and the ability to move forward. So it's not a job, like you don't need to go get the job. What you need to start thinking about is, what are those skills that you have? What's the unique set of Lego blocks that you can take around with you as you move forward? And I will say that people who are sticking with a curiosity, a sense of curiosity, well, what's around that corner? What's underneath that rock? How can I go figure that thing out? How do I keep my growth mindset active? How do I build learning into my day to day? It's not, I'm going to sit down and read these books and take these tests, but it's like, how am I constantly going to be pushing myself to go try something different, do something different? That compounds to your skill development. And so if you start thinking about adaptability and resilience as your superpower, you can take on anything. And so that's what we're working on at Aetheon. That's why we're really hyper focused on these core transferable skills, because if you have a curious, engaged, resilient person in your team, in the role, in the work that's necessary, you'll all thrive and you'll all be able to move forward. It creates, instead of adversity, it's curiosity and fun.
Yeah. So when you are persistent and adaptable, you really do unlock that potential inside of you. That's
For
awesome.
sure, for sure.
Sonder, you want to take
Marie,
the
I'd
question?
like to just kind of harp on something that you kind of brought up. How would you see the interpersonal side of those skills kind of maintaining as, as you mentioned, like Gen AI and AI in general becoming more integrated and we rely more heavily in society?
Yeah, so I'm all about preserving humanity. But at the same time, I also really get excited about what we can do with this technology and with these new AI and so on. I actually look at it as helping us to be better human beings. So, if I don't have to be burdened with mundane, task-oriented things, I'm set free to explore that curiosity or to reach out to a fellow colleague or to volunteer more time and do things in my community. If I'm not burdened with these tasky things, then that's where technology can actually help me be a better human being. One thing to think about is the value and power of AI and this emerging tech is in the removal of very process, very monotonous, very boring activities. And so the technology shines all the time. It always will exceed the power of what a human can do if it's a task or a specific linear type activity. Again, talking to Mike Pino the other day, he mentioned that he was looking at a paper towel manufacturer that they produce billions of paper towels every year, but the entire company had something like 12 people working in it, and it was just all the tasky things were done by a machine, but where it required creativity, ingenuity, uh, a different approach, that's where the humans come in. And actually, we've been documenting this quite a while too. There was a lot of conversation about the return to office and, should we get people in the seats and should they be showing up for work? Well, I say, sure, ask people to come back to the office, but do it because you want to celebrate the chances to be human together, that you want to explore the creative opportunities. You want to reimagine how to solve a problem. You want to add diversity into the thinking, into the strategizing, but don't ask people to come back to the office just to have a butt in the seat, if you will, and have people ticking off the tasky things because that's not fulfilling and that's not rewarding. But what is when technology helps you be a better human by getting rid of all the things that are not related to being human.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Gabby, and thank you, Sonder. And
Yeah.
because we're already at that cutoff point with respect to the Q&A, let's just move right into our Q&A for the audience. And I know we've got a few lined up in the chat feed.
We do. So we have someone here who said willingness to change. Overcoming unwilling people can be very challenging. How do you propose overcoming those who may be unwilling to change their leadership style, even when you've provided a possible solution?
Oof, that's it. That's tough. Yeah. So my sense is that the request is from an employee perspective, and so yeah, I think it's interesting. From my experience, demonstrating behavior is often the key, and again, I think having a bit of empathy and a sense of like what is going on with the person, the leader, who might be challenged by that. I think that one of the things I've learned in all of these years of working with this data and these insights is that as complex, messy human beings, we show up to work with the complexity and the messiness of our lives. It's unrealistic to think that you can just park the car or get off the train and walk in and whoop, be a different person. Every once in a while you see a sci-fi movie where someone has got that ability, but that's not life. And so I think lean into it with empathy, lean into it with demonstrating the behaviors and thinking about how to pull that out by you influencing those around you. And so it's a complex situation, but that's where I would start.
Yeah, modeling the work that you want to see.
Absolutely.
Yeah. We have someone in the audience who's wants a little bit more information about the statistic you read that for every dollar invested in mental health, there's a $4 return. Do you have the title of that research or author?
Yes, yeah. So we have, I'm happy to share with you, Gabby, the follow-up on the white papers and the different
Mhm.
references that I have here. Absolutely. But yes, it boils down to it's pretty basic. If you've got people showing up with uh, they're working at their job and they're not distracted, they're not having to leave because of the challenges that they've got, then they're still working and they're at their seat. So productivity is part of that measure. The cost of getting them to the medical support that they need. There's a whole bunch of factors that go into that return, and I'm happy to provide the research that shows that.
Awesome. And we'll send that along for the person here who's asked about it. Yeah. So what is the best path for team members to travel towards collaboration under a leader who doesn't value collaboration?
Wow.
Tough questions to-
Again, one of the things that we were so passionate about starting Aetheon is to provide teams an opportunity to explore how to work together as teams. So one of the things is being part of our community is that you have um, a chance to practice your skills and put your skills into motion and do that with your colleagues and with your team. So there will be lots of social learning opportunities, including team quests that will help demonstrate how to work through and problem solve together. One of the things we're really excited about is for everybody who's ever done like an escape room, um, that type of collaboration, that type of like figuring this out. This is the data we have. These are the things that we need to go solve for. Let's figure out how we can solve for it together. That type of activity is going to be part of our Aetheon experience. And so for teams trying to figure out how do I get that manager who's not, super collaborative and super helpful, or understanding how to add their Lego blocks of skills to this work that we have to do. We will help expose that and help learn from that. But also, you as an individual, as a contributor to that team, will learn how to best apply the skills that you have and how to best move forward. So it comes through practice. You can't go sit down and learn a whole bunch of these things through the books and the papers. You actually have to go try it and go figure out, does this work together? And yeah, again, it comes back to demonstrating and modeling.
Mhm. Definitely. So our next question is, I've heard that people don't resist change, they resist being changed. How can companies leverage relationships with their employees to everyone, then navigate change together?
That's super interesting as well. These are great questions. What
Yeah,
an
yeah.
amazing audience. Yeah, so I think that yeah, resisting change is very common. Anybody who has worked through a change management
Mm.
challenge at a company knows that there are a decent chunk of people who are like, yeah, okay, cool, whatever. And you've got the laggers and the people who are like, different is bad. Again, one of the things that we focus on at Aetheon and through our skills is through this idea that growth mindset is measurable, and it's possible, and it's necessary for adopting anything that comes forward. And you start to unlock some of that through the curiosity and through the exploration. Um, Companies would do really well by, again, creating opportunities that are not stressful or super, I guess, important, but creating little actions, little opportunities where you can start to demonstrate, oh, see, you didn't want to do that, but you did, and here's how you survived and how
Yeah.
it actually made it better. Again, we're social beings, we're social connections. And so, that we learn from watching and participating and supporting one another. There's the adage of you don't know what you know until you have to teach it to someone else. And so as you think about how does that apply in growth mindset? Well, here, let me show you the places I did change, and here's the things that I tried differently, and I learned from it, or I struggled from it. And you get that feedback from your peers, you get that feedback from your leadership. Companies that employ creativity and opportunities to collaborate as humans will start to ingest that type of cultural change.
Yeah. All goes back to modeling it and showing others.
Yes.
Yeah, everything.
I mean,
Okay.
we're all children that have grown up, and we were modeling
Yeah.
behaviors from our parents. Dr. Zach Mercurio talks about this idea of mattering, and even at the very earliest stage, babies, newly born babies, will seek the attention of someone that they need. Help me, feed me, keep me
Mhm.
warm. We're taught at a very, very early age to be important to others. And so as social beings, we model our behavior and we model how and who we want to be based on those we surround ourselves with. So again, thinking about companies and teams, it's, companies that understand that dynamic will always create opportunities for people to learn the best behaviors from each other.
Yeah, certainly. So our next question is, how does Atheon approach growing an individual's consciousness of their passions, gifts, and potentials? How is this communicated at a team and organizational level?
Excellent question. So, learning learning for us is very multifaceted. There is a strong ROI on social learning. When you come together and share a learning experience, share a learning journey with others, just the act of connecting with one another will help amplify and grow your potential, but also it reverberates throughout the ecosystem. And we very purposely called our platform, our place that we meet, a campus, because we actually want to embrace just what you're seeing at Seton Hall. When you walk onto that campus, you're just part of an overall growth experience. Everything about that is meant to elevate and expand how you think about the world. You look over there and you see the buildings where the professors are. Over there is where the lecture hall. Oh, there's where everyone meets for food and dining. And look, there's people playing frisbee underneath the trees. That entire campus experience with all of its diversity of activities is meant to elevate your ability and your mindset. And so that's what we're trying to do with Atheon, is that as you come into the campus community as an individual, you are again celebrated for who you are and what you bring right then and there. But also you can just on your own explore talking to a thought leader, connect to some research, go look at, what's happening over there with the events and things. And so just in that exposure is for you and yourself, but for companies that bring teams and for teams that come with each other, there are activities and things that the team can do and the things that you can do as a group. And so all of that is meant to elevate. And there's academies, very specific academies. So we are launching in early June, the world's first certification program through Flourishing Leadership, and led by Dr. Matt Lee from the Human Flourishing Program at Baylor University. We are launching a boot camp. Yes, a boot camp, a very I always call it an amuse-bouche for learning about flourishing.
Mhm.
But everyone is expected to enjoy that program. If you're already on the Aetheon campus, and people can go sign up for the wait list, we'll be opening doors soon. If they're already part of that campus environment, they get to take this boot camp for free and recognize how individually flourishing is important and how to translate it and make it meaningful for those that you work with and for those people that you lead. And so again, going back to this as a mission, it's absolutely something we're very passionate about. We have to start with the fundamentals of being human and recognizing that individually we can bring so much more to the world around us if we're individually thriving and flourishing. I often talk about it like the pebbles in a pond when, it's one thing if you drop a pebble in a pond and I'm flourishing, I'm, doing well. But I touch people. I have friends and family and community events and work activities and things. If I'm flourishing, I can pass that on and share that with others. But imagine throwing gravel into that pond. And if we're all flourishing and if we're all doing well, the impact is massive and ongoing. So it's important for you to focus on what you need and how you need to show up, but come back and bring it to others around you.
Certainly. We're excited to hear about how your boot camp goes with your participants.
I expect to see you there.
So of course. Based on our conversation today and the environment that we're living in, what impressions are leaders leaving on the next generation of leaders and workers?
Again, we're shifting from this industrial age system where there was a strict hierarchy. There's the boss, and then the people that report to the boss, and then so on. Where work is going today and where we're seeing the research point to is that these sense of hierarchy are starting to crumble and starting to break apart. And companies are recognizing the power of more agile workforces. So thinking about what is the project, what is the work that needs to be done right now, and what are the resources associated with being put to that project and that work. And so team leaders now have to start looking at, I have to get this project over the finish line by this amount of time. What are the skills I need associated with getting that done? And so companies that are able to build agile teams that might be comprised of fractional workers, temporary workers, gig workers, coupled with the core talent that they have in the company. That's what we're seeing happening. So I think companies are starting to recognize this. And if we can get out of this industrial age system, we can start to unlock the individual skill and flourishing component that really will amplify the work and speed things up and make the quality so much better.
Definitely. Yeah. So our next question is, servant leadership has been described as a difficult approach to leading, managing, and supporting others. How can we make it more attractive to those who already face so many challenges on a day-to-day basis?
Yeah, again, individually, we have to start with ourselves, and servant leadership should not be difficult. That kind of makes me sad to think that is a perception.
Some people see it as this mushy stuff
I
that
know.
is,
Try
yeah.
using the word flourishing all the time. People
Yeah.
always, I get it all the time.
Mhm.
But honestly, it's how you look at who you are. And part of flourishing and part of servant leadership is a recognition of purpose and values. And what's your integrity on living a life well lived? And so how do you become that person? And it starts with you. You have to say, you know what? This is who I want to be. This is how I want the world to see me. This is the trajectory I'm on. I'm on this infinite game. I have set my sights so far out there that that's where I want to go. And so just by being in that space, you're going to gravitate and bring people along with you. People want to be around positive people. People want to be with people who have a purpose in life and who are motivated by things outside of themselves. And, it's infectious, and leadership doesn't have to say, I took this course on servant leadership, so therefore I am now the best servant leader in the company. It's it's who you are. It's part of your DNA. Now, I will tell you, sadly, again, going back to this infrastructure that we've built around ourselves, I do think we've promoted people that really don't want to be in the leadership roles. They're fantastic individual contributors. And again, we keep looking at roles and jobs and not skills. What are my skills for leading people? What are my demonstrated ways of helping move this project or these people forward? Those are the people that will need to step up and be part of the leadership team. So I think if we start to break down you've been in this job for so long, therefore you get a promotion because that's what the only thing that we can think of to put you into the next thing. But what if we say, wow, based on your life experiences and your skills, let's go apply it to this work over here. It shouldn't matter that you're leading a team of 50 versus 500. It shouldn't matter that this is the job title, therefore this is what you get. Let's look at skills and let's start breaking down all these false narratives and these false constructs, and really look at what's the work that needs to be done. Let's go apply the right skill to that work.
Yeah, definitely. Okay, so our last question for today is whether you're struggling to find and or keep a job, working in an unhealthy environment, or feeling the impact of our polarized society. It's evident that people are not feeling the most hopeful about our uncertain times. So where can we draw strength, hope, and optimism for the future?
Yeah, so I'm a mom of two 20-somethings, and I'm not impervious to this. This is part of what life has for us right now. And but here's, again, I probably am considered Pollyanna and too joyful, I guess. But my cup is filled because I do focus on where we're good at being human. And I do see a lot of good things out in the world. And I do think that having a focus on what can I control and what can I do for myself, because we've all heard the adage, put your own oxygen mask on so that you can help others around you. That's
Yeah.
exactly what we're talking about. What do you need to have some introspection, you need to have some ideas around what is it that you need. And it might mean deflecting and turning off the news. It might mean, you know what, I'm going to focus on what I can control here. I always say that community is really a great place for people to reset their purpose and reset who they are. There's something magical about looking into your community, and community can be, as broad or as narrow as you need it to be. But when I need a touchstone, when I need to reset how I'm thinking about things, I just look at who are my neighbors, what are the things that are important to our community, what can we do to help each other. So I volunteer a lot at different nonprofits. I'm very passionate about our local theater. I spend a lot of time helping people put on great plays and put on great musicals and things like that, things that are joyful, things that are fun. And I just get so much feedback for myself when I watch others give of themselves. And so it's just this cycle of again, surround yourself by the people and the things that are uplifting and joyful, and you can actually start to reset and challenge yourself on how you're thinking about some of the stuff. Yeah, I don't look at all the news ongoing, but when I do, I'm able to process it because I can contextualize it to, yep, that's really messed up, but here's what I can do about it. Here's what I am doing about it. And here's who I want to be as I consider this. And so again, take ownership of yourself and say, what am I going to put myself into, and focus there. It's very helpful.
Yeah. Yeah. So much of this is out of our control, but we do have ourselves in our control.
and we have our friends and we have our
Yes,
families and we
yes,
have
the community we've
community.
created here.
And it's like, it's right here and you can go touch it. You can go sit down with someone. You know, I always say, you know, one of the things I'm always surprised by is if I dug too deep, some of the people I'm volunteering with at the food bank and some of the people that I see every day as I walk down the street, I might not agree with how they think of the rest of the world, but we share this moment and we share this common thing together and just celebrate that. Get rooted in that because that's where humans do best. We do really well if we can just look someone in the eye and actually just say, there's a lot of stuff going on around us, but you and I are right here, right now.
Well, thank you so, so much, Marie, for your time with us today.
Oh, I love this. And you know, I think I always brag about what you guys are doing and the work that you do is so important. And yeah, we have a lot to fix and to do, and the task list is never ending.
Yeah.
But just know that all of these efforts that you guys are doing is actually that pebble in the pond. It's a ripple that you don't have visibility to the number of lives you're touching. You don't have visibility to all the people that have heard something that's meaningful for you and how it changed how they moved through the day. And so I just want you guys to know that you need to keep up the good work and we're all in this together and we're all sharing this important mission together.
Thank
Well,
you.
Marie, we are catching that joy, and no, you are not Pollyannish. We need much more of all of you. We want to thank you and all of your partners and collaborators at Aetheon for the incredible work that you're doing to ensure that we're all flourishing as individuals, flourishing in teams, and flourishing in our organizations. Thank you for being with us today. Thank you so much for all of you who have joined, but do not log off just yet. Gabby's got a few announcements. Thank you so much.
Thank
And we
you. Thank
do.
you.
So registration for our next Foundations of Servant Leadership course that begins next week is open. You can register through the QR code on the screen, and it's also linked to our homepage website at greenleaf.org. We'd like to invite you to our next webinar on June 11th with President and COO of Metro Power, Alberto Paluzzo. We'll be discussing maintaining the bottom line while managing with care. The Center's Hall of Fame nominations are now open. This annual award ceremony recognizes local and national servant leaders, as well as servant-led organizations. For more information, you could visit greenleaf.org on how to nominate an individual that you believe fits the criteria. If you would like to stay connected with the Greenleaf Center, you could do so on these 3 platforms, scanning the QR code. And last but not least, if you could please take a quick moment to take the Zoom survey, it'll automatically pop up after this webinar ends. We would really appreciate that. So thank you so, so much. Take care, Marie.